Right, another worst to best ranking video. This time I thought I'd do the entire James Bond franchise. There are a few films missing from this video though. I'm not going to include the Casino Royale comedy, Never Say Never Again, which was like a spin-off that Sean Connery did in the 80s. And I'm also not including the most recent James Bond, No Time to Die, because I don't intend to watch it anytime soon because I've read the plot, and yeah, the less said about that film the better. I probably will get around to watching it at some point, but I'm certainly not paying to go and watch that film for reasons that I think many people will know, but I'm not going to discuss that in this video. I'm just not real happy in the way the direction is being taken. Hopefully with the next James Bond they'll go back to Ian Fleming's novel more and actually make a proper James Bond film. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm including 24, which I have here. I have all the 24 films from Dr. No to Spectre, all on Blu-ray. I've just watched them all recently, from start to finish in the past couple of months, so they're all kind of fresh in my mind. This is my list obviously, so everybody's list is going to be different. Everyone's got their own favourites, their favourite James Bond, their favourite films. So yeah, this is just my list. It's a bit of fun. This is a way I would rank them as of now from just watching them all recently. So let's get to it. It's going to be a long video this, so I'm going to have to edit a lot. I've even made a brew and everything. So, number 24. Diamonds Are Forever. Sean Connery's last film as James Bond, well, official film as James Bond. Yeah, it's I'd just like to say as well, I do enjoy all these films, but I've got to rank them obviously, so the worst one out of the bunch I'd say is Diamonds Are Forever. A film that kind of drags on a little bit too long than it should have been. You can tell Sean Connery's sort of like not putting his heart into the role anymore. Blofeld in it's a bit bland. There's these two jokers in it that try to be funny, that are like assassins, that I kind of thought were fun when I was a kid when I watched this film, but watching it now it's kind of just dumb. And not an awful film. There's a scene in it where he's in I think it's a Ford Mustang, and he's racing around Las Vegas. That was quite fun. But yeah, this film's, it's kind of like a film of its time, I think, and it's certainly one of the weakest in my opinion. So Diamonds Are Forever, number 24. Number 23, A View to a Kill. Roger Moore's last film as James Bond. Again, kind of a bit of a boring one. Not a bad film. Christopher Walken as the bad guy was pretty good. But similar to like Diamonds Are Forever, I think this is Roger Moore's weakest, as Diamonds Are Forever was Sean Connery's weakest. A lot of people point out that Roger Moore was too old for playing James Bond up at this point, which I kind of agree with. I think even Roger Moore himself admitted later on that he was too old to play the role in this movie. But I think at the time the producers and the fans wanted to carry on doing another James Bond, and I quite like Roger Moore. But with this film, it's obvious that it was probably one too many, and Timothy Dalton should have come in at this point. Not a bad film though, just a bit of a boring one. Not much happens in it, and like I say, Roger Moore's kind of way past his prime at this point. But you know, number 23 for me. Number 22, You Only Live Twice. I think this was the last film that Sean Connery originally said, right, this is the last James Bond I'm going to do. But he came back and did another one, and then years later another unofficial one. But yeah, again with Diamonds Are Forever, you can kind of tell Sean Connery was a bit lacklustre in this film compared to the first few that he did. They even get him to dress up as a Chinese man or a Japanese man, and it's got that kind of that martial arts thing with it, but there's kind of this scene at the end where this volcano erupts, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, maybe back in the 60s it probably would have looked impressive, but now it just looks ridiculous. Includes a decent Blofeld, the guy out of Halloween, I forgot his name. Kind of, this is a film I think that Austin Powers kind of rips off a lot. It's not a bad film, it's just a very 60s, silly, over the top James Bond movie. And yeah, it's number 22 for me. Number 21, Quantum of Solace. Daniel Craig's second film as James Bond, and one I hadn't watched before I bought this box set, believe it or not, because I just wasn't really that interested in watching it, to be honest. But having watched it now, yeah, it's basically a Bourne Identity rip-off, I think, but nowhere near as good as Bourne Identity. This film was that confusing, I literally had to go on Wikipedia, read the plot, just to understand what was going on with it, because it is a mess of a film, to be honest. I mean, Daniel Craig is alright in it, he's a decent actor. Not my favourite James Bond, but he's a good actor, and but the film's just a mess. It's a bit all over the place, didn't really know what was going on, and like I said, I had to read up the plot because I was just like, what's going on here? But yeah, number 21, definitely Daniel Craig's weakest James Bond film in my opinion. But a short James Bond movie, I think it was only like 90 minutes long, so if you just want to watch a short movie, maybe watch that one, see what you think of it. What's that, number 21? Number 20, another Daniel Craig film, Spectre. Kind of Daniel Craig's version of Diamonds Are Forever, I suppose. Blofeld's in it again. Film that's way too long, boring. A few decent scenes in it. There's a good car chase in it, like there is in Diamonds Are Forever, but Spectre's just, it's a good looking film, well produced, but it's just, it didn't do much for me, to be honest. Daniel Craig in it as well is a bit, there's just no character in him as like James Bond. He's just bland in my opinion, and the movie itself is kind of well made. You can tell it was probably done on a high budget, but still it's just the script, and yeah, it's just a bit of a boring film, to be honest. Number 19, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. The only film with George Lazenby as James Bond, I think that's how you pronounce his surname, from Australia. And this film's kind of a weird one. It's got a really good ending to it, like the last 20 minutes or so of this film is really good. Like the last 20 minutes of this film is like one of the best Bond films. However, the beginning of the film's pretty good, and then the middle of it just like, yeah, the middle of this film, it just kind of gets a bit weird and a bit strange, with all these like women that are in it in this tower at the top of a mountain with Blofeld, and it's just a bit of a strange plot and a story. And I filmed that sort of like, it was refreshing to watch because a different James Bond. I think the action scenes in this Bond movie are better than excuse me, the Sean Connery ones, but all in all it's a bit of a below average Bond movie in my opinion. But the last 20 minutes or so are really good, which kind of a lot of people pick up on, because I quite like that bobsleigh ending as well with Blofeld. That was pretty good. But in general, this film, I think it was released in 1969 at the end of the 60s, so maybe it was just a film of its time. And looking back at it now, it's kind of like you can sort of criticise it now, but it's alright, I suppose. Not a bad Bond film, just a bit of a strange one in my opinion. Anyway, Number 18, Moonraker. Another Roger Moore film, the most far-fetched, ridiculous, over-the-top James Bond film ever made. However, for me personally, it was a film with two halves. I thought the first half of the film was actually really good, like a really good, decent, solid Bond movie, and then the second half of the film, it's just like, okay, things are getting a bit silly now. And that scene towards the end where we're having that laser fight in space, I mean, come on now, it's getting a bit silly. But all in all, Roger Moore is quite entertaining in the film. The film is what it is, you just watch it with an open mind. And yeah, it's got Jaws in it again. But he turns out to be a good guy at the end of it, which kind of like, again, adds to the silliness. It's an okay film. I think a lot of people kind of put it right to the bottom of the list. Some people actually really like this film. It is what it is, just watch it with an open mind. So, number 17. Pierce Brosnan's last James Bond film, and maybe putting it at number 17 will quite surprise some people. Die Another Day. Again, kind of like Moonraker. Very silly, very over the top. I actually saw this film at the Pictures, and at the time I was like, what? Because it was kind of just a bit, silly, over the top nonsense. But watching it now, if you just take it for what it is, watch it with an open mind and just have fun with it. It's an entertaining James Bond film, it is. Yeah, it's silly. Yeah, it's stupid. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of humour thrown in it, but to be quite honest, Pierce Brosnan is still really good in it. I forgot the bad guy's name in it. I thought he was pretty good. The plot was just silly, but all in all, from start to finish, I found it entertaining to watch, to be honest. And yeah, it may be not as good as maybe some of the other James Bond films that I've ranked lower than it, but it was at least entertaining and fun to watch, and it wasn't boring, so it sits at number 17 on my list. Number 16, Doctor No. The very first James Bond film. Again, not necessarily a traditional Bond film. There's a lot of things missing in this film. It was the very first film, the original, so obviously things hadn't been done before in this movie. Sean Connery, I think, is really good in this movie. Probably one of his strongest films, actually, is James Bond. I like the fact that it's more sort of down to earth and grounded. It gets a bit silly towards the end, but for the vast part, this is pretty much just like a spy movie. You kind of just respect it for what it is. To be fair, I forgot the year it came out. I think it was like 1962, something like that. It's a decent film for its time. I mean, there weren't a lot of films around that time that was as good as this one, I don't think. And yeah, it's a decent movie, I think. Sits at number 16, Doctor No. Number 15. This is going to surprise probably everyone, but this is my list. This is where I would rank them as of now, that I've written down, and that's Goldfinger. Yeah, Goldfinger, number 15, would you believe it? A good movie, you know. I'm not going to deny that it's a good movie. It's just, a lot of people would put it at number 1, and that's fine. I think it's a good movie, like I said, but when I ranked these films, I think the top 5 and the bottom 5 were dead easy for me to do, but all the films that came in the middle was really difficult to sort of like place them. And as of now, Goldfinger's number 15 for me. It's the film that I think a lot of people recognise as James Bond. You know, it pretty much introduced the Aston Martin, the gadgets, the villain and the henchman, and you know, it's Goldfinger. I mean, everybody pretty much knows about Goldfinger who's likes watching James Bond. Decent movie, just sits about in the middle for me though. I mean, I know I'll probably get a lot of hate for saying this, but I kind of think it's a little bit overrated in my opinion. But yeah, number 15. Anyway, number 14. Sean Connery's second film, From Russia with Love. This is kind of a strange one because it is slightly boring, this film, but at the same time I kind of respect it a lot and enjoyed it to a certain degree because it's probably the most grounded and realistic and down to earth James Bond film there is, even more so than Dr. No. I really like Robert Shaw in it as well as like the henchman. Blofeld is like introduced into it but you don't see his face. Sean Connery is brilliant in this film. I think as an actor, as James Bond, this is probably his best film. A lot of people might be surprised to put From Russia with Love above Goldfinger, but I was kind of surprised when I watched this film. I was like, yeah, I really enjoyed that. I mean, not much happens in it, but at the same time, it's one of the Sean Connery films I would watch again, and be happy to do that. As with the other Sean Connery films, and I'll be kind of like, apart from one other, I'll be like, yeah, I'm not that interested in watching that again anytime soon. But yeah, From Russia with Love, decent Bond film, I think. If you're expecting a lot of action though, and a lot of, then it's probably not the one for you, maybe. But yeah, when it comes to like the story, the drama, the plot and everything, I think this one is a solid Bond film. Number 13, Octopussy. Roger Moore should have probably retired before this one because he was starting to show his age now, but again, a film that a lot of people are divided on. A lot of people don't like this film, a lot of people love it. Kind of sits in the middle for me. It's entertaining. I think it was set mainly in India. James Bond dresses as a clown, which a lot of people pick up on. He also does this silly little Tarzan swing through the trees. Yeah, so a lot of people are kind of like, what? When they watch this. And I kind of felt the same, but all in all, I found it quite an entertaining film with some really good scenes in this film, I think. And yeah, Octopussy, not a bad film. Sits about in the middle. For me, number 12, Casino Royale. Again, another very controversial decision because a lot of people seem to put this at number 1, or at least in the top 5. But what can I say about Casino Royale? Daniel Craig's first film. Maybe the film franchise did need a bit of a reboot after Die Another Day. It was obvious that people wanted something different, maybe a new Bond. The trouble with this one is it kind of misses a lot of what a traditional Bond movie is, what it feels like and what it's all about. I mean, to be fair, Daniel Craig's really good in the film as an actor. However, as James Bond, he just doesn't do much for me at all, I'm afraid. I mean, great actor, but I remember when this came out, I was kind of like, ugh. I didn't think he was a great choice for James Bond, and when I watched this, I was kind of like, I still felt the same. However, it is a real good movie. I'm not going to deny that. It is a good movie. I like the bad guy in it. I forgot his name. He was in Clash of the Titans as well. He was real good in that as well. The guy with the bleeding eye. Yeah, he was real good in it. Like I say, it's a good movie. Just misses out the top 10 for me. But a lot of people love this film. I think it's a good film. It just, like I said, the top 5 and the bottom 5 were dead easy. The ones in the middle were really difficult for me to rank. This comes in at number 12, Casino Royale. Number 11, The World Is Not Enough. Along with Die Another Day, this is like Pierce Brosnan's weaker James Bond film in my opinion. However, again, just like with Die Another Day, it's an entertaining film, a fun film. I really enjoyed it again. I watched this one at the pictures as well when it came out. I actually preferred it a lot more at the pictures when it came out as to opposed to watching it now. Maybe it's just showing its age a bit, I don't know. It is a better movie than Die Another Day. A lot of people will be like, what, you put The Will Is Not Enough above Casino Royale? But yeah, I just thought it was fun to watch. And I like Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. I think he's really good. A lot of people criticise this film because of Denise Richards, but to be fair, she doesn't really make a huge impact in this film anyway. I think the other actress that's in it makes a bigger impact, and she's really good in it. Yes, it's at number 11. One that I enjoy. I almost forgot as well. I still have the VHS. Yeah, The World Is Not Enough. So I was a fan of it back in the 90s. So yeah. Right, where was I? Number 10, top 10. This is where we're getting on to the really good ones. And the last Sean Connery film on my list, Thunderball. Really good movie. Obviously my favourite Sean Connery James Bond film, which I was quite surprised at because this is one of the ones that I didn't really remember that much. I had seen it before a long time ago, and rewatching it now I was like, yeah, it's really good this. I quite enjoyed the underwater scenes, they were quite ahead of the time I think. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Thunderball quite surprised me actually because I didn't think much of it when I was younger, but I really enjoyed watching it again now. So number 10. Number 9, again this one's probably going to surprise people, The Man with the Golden Gun. A lot of people put this at the bottom. What can I say? I really like Roger Moore and I think he's great. The bad guy, Christopher Lee, the assassin. I really enjoyed this film. I don't understand why people don't like it that much, but I really enjoyed it. I really like the Bond girl in it as well. Yeah, it was Roger Moore's second film as James Bond. One that I enjoy. I don't know why it gets a lot of hate, but there you go. So, number 9, The Man with the Golden Gun. So, number 8. Pretty much the film that preceded The Man with the Golden Gun. Live and Let Die. Roger Moore's first film as James Bond, and the first thing I realised about this film within the first like 5 minutes of watching it was a breath of fresh air, because the Sean Connery films and that, especially after Diamonds Are Forever, it was kind of like just getting to a point where I think the franchise needed a new Bond and it needed a shake up. And Live and Let Die, as soon as it starts, Roger Moore comes in and he's brilliant in this film. I mean, this is probably his strongest performance as James Bond, I think. He was good in a couple of others, but this is probably, as an actor, his strongest performance. I really enjoy this one. It's kind of a quirky one. Like, it's got a few like strange characters in it. The plot's basically about drugs, so that's what it boils down to, I think, in the end. But it's a great film. I mean, like I say, I mean, I think watching this compared to the ones that came before it, it was just like, I think it was going in the right direction in my opinion. And I think one of the main things to say about this film as well is the soundtrack. I mean, Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney and Wings, one of the best Bond themes in my opinion. I really like the Duran Duran one, A View to a Kill as well, but this would probably come number 1. Maybe The View to Kill will come at number 2. Really decent Bond theme, I think. But yeah, it's a great movie, I think. I remember when I was a kid I really liked this one and I still like it now, so yeah. That's number 8, Live and Let Die. I don't want to talk too much about these films because I don't want this video to drag on. Number 7, Skyfall. Yeah, the film again, like Casino Royale, a lot of people put this at number one and say it's the best James Bond film. I was quite surprised because I kind of lost interest a bit in James Bond around this time, and everyone was saying to me, "You've got to watch Skyfall. It's a brilliant film." I was like, "Eh." And then I think I ended up watching it on DVD that I'd lent from someone, and I was like, "Yeah, it's a great Bond movie." Still think, it's probably Daniel Craig's strongest performance as James Bond, I'd say, and it's the only film in the Daniel Craig era which I actually felt like it was a proper James Bond film, because all of the others, they just didn't feel like James Bond movies in my opinion. Like I said, Quantum of Solace was like watching a silly, messy Bourne Identity film. This film actually did feel like a James Bond film, decent villain in it. However, it just comes at number 7 for me. I mean, it's a good movie, I'm not going to argue about that. It's got a good story to it. Should be a killed off M in it, I don't know, but it's a decent movie. Sorry about that, a motorbike was just coming past. But yeah, number 7, Skyfall, great movie, Daniel Craig's best Bond film in my opinion, because it was the only Bond film in the Daniel Craig era which actually felt like a Bond film as well. But there you go, that's just my opinion anyway. It's a great film, I'm not going to argue against that. It just sits at number 7 for me. Number 6, The Spy Who Loved Me. Many put this at Roger Moore's best performance as James Bond and best film as James Bond, but yeah, I can kind of agree to a certain degree about that. I mean, Jaws is brilliant, decent villain in it, very typical Bond movie. The one thing I really enjoyed about this one is it relates James Bond a lot to the Royal Navy, because James Bond is basically a naval officer, so there's very few James Bond films that actually relate him to the Royal Navy. This one does relate to the Royal Navy, and you kind of see him as a naval officer in it as well, so it's like, yeah, it's kind of good to see that in a James Bond film. It's a great movie. I mean, it's a very 70s film as well, like the music, the style, but it's great nonetheless. I mean, great Bond theme. Everything about this movie is really good. It does maybe go on a little bit for too long. I think it does feel like a long film, this one. But, I like the Lotus in it as well, that turns into a submarine. That's great, that scene. But yeah, The Spy Who Loved Me. It's a great Bond movie. One of Roger Moore's best, I think. But not as good as number 5, which is my favourite Roger Moore film. And this is probably the less talked about, most underrated and overlooked James Bond film in the entire franchise in my opinion. And that's For Your Eyes Only, number 5. Yeah, I think what happened with this film is, with Moonraker, the one that came before it, they were like, okay, let's bring everything back down to earth now, things are getting a little bit too silly now. And they were also trying to copy Star Wars at the time. So with this film, they were like, okay, we've got to make an actual realistic Bond film, if there ever was a realistic Bond film. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's got everything. It's got car chases, ski, decent bad guy. Roger Moore's brilliant in the film. It's got a decent Bond girl. I think the only thing that lets this film down is there's this silly little blonde girl in it. I think she's called BB or something like that, and it's just this. It's like putting Jar Jar Binks in Star Wars. It's just like, she almost ruins it, but not quite. But yeah, she's like a really dumb character that wasn't needed in the film whatsoever. But apart from her, this film is top quality James Bond, in my opinion. In fact, it's one I remember watching when I was younger, and I was like, yeah, I like this one, but I completely forgot it. I mean, like everybody else, I was like, I don't remember this film that much. And then I rewatched it, and I was like, this film's brilliant. It's like one of the best Bond films in my opinion. I mean, it sits at number 5 for me, For Your Eyes Only. And I think it may have it should have been Roger Moore's last film, maybe, because he just about gets away with this one. After this, he kind of like he's starting to show his age a bit. But yeah, it's a great film. This one, very underrated, very overlooked. I'm sure some of you watching this probably like, I don't remember For Your Eyes Only. Go and watch it. It's a great Bond movie, in my opinion. And number 4, Tomorrow Never Dies. This is a film when it came out. I think it was 1997 it came out, and I was just about to turn 12, and the film was a 12. And a friend of mine from high school, he just turned 12 as well, and we tried to get into the pictures and we were like, "Have you got your ID?" I was like, "I'm 12, like in like a week's time." We're like, "Not good enough, you can't come in." And we ended up watching some naff film instead. I forgot what it was. But yeah, I remember when this came out, Tomorrow Never Dies, and it's a film that I was quite surprised to rank so high in this list, because I thought it'd be like in the middle or towards the bottom. And I forgot how fun it was and how great it was. Great villain in it, great henchman in it. Pierce Brosnan's brilliant in it. Quite like the Bond girl. Not a traditional Bond girl in a sense, but she still brings a lot of entertainment to the film. It's a great movie, this one, from start to finish. I remember when I watched this film, from start to finish, it never like lets up. It's just entertaining all the way through. There's no boring bits in it. It's great. It's got the gadgets. It's got everything in this film. I mean, it's a great Bond movie. I mean, a lot of people don't tend to put it in the top 5, but I think it definitely deserves to be in the top 5 in my list. Like I said, I was quite surprised because I kind of forgot a lot about this film. Rewatching it, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it surprises me that it's this high on the list, but yeah, there you go. Tomorrow Never Dies. Number 4. Number 3. Now these top 3 films, these are like, I didn't even have to think. I was just like, yeah, these are my favourites. But I had to rank them, and number 3 is The Living Daylights. Timothy Dalton's first Bond movie. And I've got the DVD here. It was nice to watch it on Blu-ray though. And what can I say about this film? Yeah, it's just a great Bond movie. I mean, Timothy Dalton as James Bond is brilliant. I think he was criticised quite a lot of the time because he played a much more serious, sort of like darker tone than Roger Moore did. And he kind of he gets a lot more respect now, I think, because obviously Daniel Craig has kind of like followed suit in portraying James Bond in a similar way. However, I think Timothy Dalton is a lot more close to like Ian Fleming's creation of James Bond, and he looks a lot more like James Bond, and he's a brilliant actor as well. And this film, again, kind of like with Live and Let Die, watching this was kind of like a breath of fresh air, because you know Roger Moore, he was getting past his prime, way past his prime, and A View to a Kill, it was showing. But with this film, it's sort of like, again, just breathes new life into the franchise. Dalton's brilliant, the film's really good, I think it's well made. It's pretty much got everything you want from a Bond film, actually. I mean, the Bond girl's really good in it. The only kind of weak point I would say is the villains in it. They're kind of like, it's got a decent henchman, this German guy. He was the same guy in Die Hard, and he's really good in it. But like the main villain in it, he's actually in a couple of other James Bond films as like cameo. And yeah, the main villain's kind of a bit weak in it, but I don't think it's got anything to do with the actor as such. It's just the way he's like written into the film, and it's a bit messy. But apart from that, the action in this film is brilliant. Everything about it is brilliant. Another great thing about Dalton is he does a lot of his own stunts, because in a lot of the other previous James Bond films, you can obviously tell it's not Roger Moore or Sean Connery in some of the scenes, and it's like, yeah, it's very obvious. With this movie, it's actually Dalton doing most of the stunts, so yeah, it's great to see him like participate in that as well in the film. It's just a great Bond film. I mean, I just don't get bored of watching this one. It's great. It deserves to be in the top 5. Put it at number 3, just because the other 2 are slightly better, I think. And again, number 2, the other Dalton film, License to Kill. yeah, you can probably tell that I like this film because I've got the old VHS from a long time ago, and the DVD and the Blu-ray. Almost just misses out from the #1 spot. Licence to Kill, brilliant film. I don't even sort of like watch this just as a Bond film. I just watch this as just a great action thriller sort of film. Again, Dalton, brilliant as James Bond. I know he gets criticised by some people because he's too like serious and that, but I do actually think he brings a bit of dry sense of humour to it in some of his scenes, and he's just such a great actor, and I think he's just such a great Bond. I mean, a lot of people will say Sean Connery is the best James Bond, but I don't know. I think Dalton brings something to the franchise. It's just a shame he only did 2. There were reasons around that, but A Licence to Kill, brilliant film. A lot of people say it's the darkest Bond film. It's got the most violence in it. It was rated 15, but it's a great movie, this one. I mean, a very simple and straightforward movie as well. Like, the plot in this film is just basically a revenge film. I mean, he's out to get revenge, and he gets his license revoked. I think they were going to call it License Revoked or something, but because of the American audience they had to name it Licence to Kill. I don't know, it's something silly about that, why they had to call it Licence to Kill, but yeah, he gets his license revoked, but he sets out to basically kill this guy who murdered Felix is his friend's wife and almost murdered Felix. So yeah, it's just basically a revenge film, and it's a great movie as well. I mean, who's the bad guy in it now? The villain in it's really good. Robert Davi, that's his name. Yeah, he's really good in this film. I quite like the Bond girl in it as well, and Q gets involved more in it as well, which I really enjoyed. It's just a great movie. I mean, I'm sure like it's one of those kind of films maybe that you either maybe love or hate, because a lot of people seem to like either love or hate Dalton. I really like him as James Bond. That's why I rank these films so high up on the list. I think it's just a great movie in general, this, to be honest. And again, I've been watching this film pretty much shortly after since it came out, and I've never got bored of it. I still think it's a great movie. It holds up really well. So yeah, #2, Licence to Kill. So that leaves us one more film, and that's my #1. Kind of really difficult with these top 2, but this #1, it had to be GoldenEye. Pierce Brosnan's first film. What can you say about this movie? I mean, it's got everything. I mean, Sean Bean as a villain. The film itself, though, it's just brilliant from start to finish. The action, the chases, the scenes, the Bond girl. It's got everything, this film. I mean, the only slight annoyance in it is that Boris guy with the glasses who's in the X-Men films. He's a bit annoying in this film, but apart from that, this film's just almost perfect in every way, to be honest. I mean, it brings back the Aston Martin as well, from the old. I think it's the same Aston Martin that was in Goldfinger, and it's just a great movie. I mean, I could make its own video about GoldenEye, about how much I like it, but yeah, it was kind of like obvious before I even did this list. I was like, this is definitely going to be maybe #1, or at least in my top 5, because I've been watching it long enough. I used to have it on video, got it on DVD. It's a great movie, and that's my list. That's the way I would rank them. I'm sure your list is very different to mine. Everybody ranks these films, especially the James Bond franchise, because there's that many of them. Everyone's got their own like favourites, and everyone's list is completely different, so I'm sure mine's completely different to yours. And yeah, that's where I'd rank them. Again, 24 movies, it was quite a difficult one. So let me know your thoughts. Please leave any comments below if you wish. Like and subscribe to the video, and I'll catch you next time.